And this gentleman here wants to fire off.
Will we see any robots?
Will you see any robots? Well, robots do exist in the 31st millennium, and they exist in the mechanicum forces, and also some are used by Space Marine forces as well. So I think it's quite possible we may see some. But we're probably not going to necessarily let every legion have some robots. If they're going in Space Marines, they will be kept for specific reasons. So we know that if you'd read some of the books, Thousand Suns, for instance, have robots, stuff like that. So yes, we may see some robots.
Yeah, will we get Custodes and Sisters Asylums as well, maybe?
Eventually.
Yes, eventually. Probably not in the next book, but at some time we're probably going to have to cover a Prospero and things like that, and obviously they turn up there, so it would be remiss of us to miss them out. So yes, Sister Asylums, Custodes, yeah, I would think so. But you might don't be too impatient. It might take a bit of time. Yeah.
I presume the plan, if everything goes well, and I'm sure it will, that eventually you'll do all the Primarchs and so on. Is the plan, at least initially?
I don't think I'm going to do Lehman Russ just to annoy all the specs. I'm just going to leave him out. We're just going to leave him out. We're going to do all the other ones, and they're going to be absolutely brilliant, and then we're just going to leave Lehman Russ out. I think, yes, we'll do all the Primarchs that are known of. There might be some that who knows where they are. Do they become small and fat and have beards? Oh, that's the other thing. Yes, the other thing we don't talk about. There's two things we don't talk about. That was the other thing.
Yeah.
Perhaps they're the same thing.
No, one of the things we don't talk about is the list of other things we don't talk about.
Oh, right. Yes, eventually we hope to do all the Primarchs. Yes.
In multiple versions, likely.
Quite likely multiple versions, because some of them change. If they change, then they're likely to get more than one version.
And I suppose, as well as the excitement of actually finally doing Primarch figures, apart from the original Lehman Russ figure from years ago,
Yeah.
is there sort of also that worry of getting the figures just right as well, or up to people's expectations, or is it just excitement to do them at last?
It's a big worry. It's a big, well, I call it a big responsibility, really. I mean, these are meant to be iconic characters from the Warhammer 40,000 universe and history, and I think it's really important that we make sure we do them properly. We were very fussy with Angron. Simon Egan did Angron, and he's a fantastic sculptor, and you know, I kind of always just wanted Simon Egan to do it because he would, I know he's going to make a good job. But he worries about it as well. He sits there painfully going through all the references he can find, and Angron took him months to do, literally months. It's not the sort of thing you do on a wet Sunday afternoon and think, look, done, there you go, that will do. It really did take months, and every single detail on it. And we had debates about, you know, poses and what embellishments he had on his armour. So yeah, they will get done, but they will take a fair amount of time. I'm going to have the guy at the back there that's not a member of staff. Clearly. God, I don't know. Yeah.
You mentioned mechanicum units there. Is it going to be a book about Battle on Mars?
Well, I don't think we can avoid Mars. It's an important part. There's quite a lot of stuff that happens quite early on, and I think we debated where we should start from when we're going to do it, and we thought Ispan 3 was a good place to start. We didn't want to do too much on. We could have, you know, started with doing murder and strike and all these sort of things, but we said, look, no, let's start with the real beginning of the Horus Heresy, which is Horus's first act of doing that. But having said that, there's quite a lot of stuff that happens at that time. There's Ispan 3 and then Ispan 5, but also there's Calth, Prospero, and then Mars, the Revolt on Mars, and stuff like that. So there's a lot of things that just to begin. Now, if you've read the Black Library books, there's obviously quite a lot of things that the Black Library books have covered. But what we're not going to mirror like for like on those. That doesn't make sense, because what we're doing is we're dealing with the battles, and some of the Black Library novels are only dealing with part of a battle or some of the parts. So actually, we'll focus right onto the battles and try and tell the history from a series of campaign across the battles. I'm going to go for over here. Yes.
I'm reading in between the lines of your presentation, would it be fair to say that Forge World's design is going to focus very much on Horus Heresy over the next 12 months and not a lot else?
No. What we're actually doing is we're dedicating people to deal with Horus Heresy. So certain people will do Horus Heresy models, and we've got plenty to do. But we've expanded our design team over the last couple of years by quite a bit, which has enabled us to do Warhammer stuff, and should enable us to carry on doing some 40k standard things and do Horus Heresy. And actually, to be honest, we're also on the lookout for more writers, artists, figure designers and whatever to actually help us put a greater range of products together, so we don't actually neglect some of the other things. Having said that, there's been Imperial Armour Volume 12 would have come out probably round about now if we hadn't done the Horus Heresy book, but there was extra resource put in to be able to try and keep it all going. So don't worry if you're into a Warhammer fan or you play Eldar or whatever, then we will carry on doing this. I'm going to go over this side a little bit, actually, because I don't want to favour these people too much. I'm going to go for the guy in green at the back.
Are you going to stick with the standard resin through sort of all your casting process, or are you actually going to start moving out towards the fine cast?
The fine cast, they're all made in the same factory. There are certain things that are cast in certain ways. What I wouldn't do is I'm not here to tell you how we make things in the same way that Coca-Cola aren't here to tell you how they make things. We always try and use the best materials and the best methods to get the models that we want. And sometimes that has a benefit if we use a certain process because we just get better consistent quality, but that process may not be great for everything, so we'll do a slightly different process and different lessons for that. So there's no plan to shift wholesale over to one process. I quite like the fact that we have various resin processes and we try and use the best ones. Sometimes we get it a bit wrong and they don't quite work, but we're quite strict with ourselves that it's all about quality and not about anything else. I'm going to go to the guy in the corner there.
I know you can't talk so much about future projects. Just wondering, with regards to the Imperial Armour books, is there any chance maybe a little bit more on the Xenos, like the Tau and the Necrons, that kind of that are limited in the way?
Well, the Necron book.
Yeah, I'm as we speak putting together the end draft, as it were, of Imperial Armour 12. So, which is pretty much the Necron show.
I'm with you, but my wife might get a little bit worried.
Oh, that's fair enough. I'm here all day.
And this evening if required.
But yeah, and that is very much the Necron's on and also ran in that book. It is a book about a Necron invasion of the Imperial sector, in which they do various things like turn off one of the suns. So it is the Necron because they can, because they're the Necrons. And so it's not a small campaign. It's an entire sector under their onslaught. So it's very much a big show for the Necrons. And I think ultimately, as we roll along, we want to give all of the Xenos races, as it were, their book, their hour in the sun. But again, that especially with the ranges that we don't have a lot of stuff for, but it was a hell of a lot of work, and we want to give them that degree of love when we come to them. So will there be a Dark Eldar book? Absolutely, we'll do a Dark Eldar book. Because we want to do that subject justice. It's not something we just want to go, and here's your Eldar book. It's got nothing else in it that you haven't seen before.
Yeah, I just reiterate Alan's point on that, because it's quite important to understand that all these things can take an inordinate amount of time to do. I mean, to do them properly and to make all the models and to make the book, they're months and months of work. Sometimes, I mean, the original Horus Heresy book, because we had to go a lot of design styles, we had to work out what we were doing, deciding on all the models and all that sort of thing. I mean, it's a year plus. We've been working on it for well over a year, the Horus Heresy book, before we finished it and arranged the models. So, I mean, it's an ongoing thing for that, but just the first book to put together, it's a lot of work. So, I always feel a little bit guilty because I understand everybody's excited and will say, well, can you do some more Orc stuff or some Tau stuff or can you have some Eldar stuff? And the answer is, if we had a magic wand, it'd be great, but it does take a long time. So, but we will always try and return to them all, and even if we've done them already, so the Tau will get another look in, as will the Orcs, as will the Eldar. And go back over this side, guy right at the back.
I mean, I know you're focusing on the main races, understandably, but will we eventually get to a point where you're getting stories about Farsight's Renegades and like the Eldritch Raiders of Uriel from Yandon? Would it be interesting to get some storylines for them? Is that an option, or are you? I mean, I know you called it with the main races, but is that an option for the future?
I think that what we like to try and do is to add depth to what's already there, rather than just creating extra things. Now, if we're adding, if you can add extra models or an extra an army that's similar to the ones that have gone before, or part of that, a natural thing, then I think that we'd always consider covering that. We want to try and, when we do projects, we always want to get some new stuff in there. But, creating totally new things, unlikely. But if things have been mentioned in the background and we think that their time is right for them to come out as a range of models or be featured in a book, then we'll certainly look at it. But there's quite a lot of stuff to do, even with just adding depth to what's already there. I'm going to go for a chat here.
Are you going to bring up the members of the model
That's been subject. We have these debates on whether we're going to do all the whole mournable or not. In the book, there's just Abaddon and Locum currently, so Paul Gavin doesn't get much of a go at the moment. But it doesn't mean we won't do a model of him, and it doesn't mean that we won't find a way of doing rules and stuff like that. So it's possible to do them, but we're going to have to. It's always a question. You start off with all these characters, and they take a long time to do. So you say, okay, well, which are the important ones? We'll put those in the book, and we'll try and do the models of them.
And the other thing as well, we'll also be using our own characters as well to give different points of view, different aspects of the army. So going on, especially with the Horus Heresy books, you'll probably get a mix of familiar characters from the novel series and also new characters that are particularly appropriate to the battles. But particularly if you want to give somebody, give the, as it were, people playing the battles, somebody for their side. Because otherwise you can end up with quite a lopsided kind of selection of characters for when people want to play campaigns. And if well, the Lunar Wars have 5 characters, I have none. That kind of thing. So there's a degree of balance also in the issue. But there's a lot of stuff to get through, and we're going to take our time and do them justice as well. We're not going to try and cram everything into just one book.
This one, I'm going to come over this side again, gentlemen here.
You've sort of discontinued a lot of the epic 40,000 stuff you're doing. Is there any plans to revisit that, or is that done now?
I think there may come a time that it's appropriate to do that. I don't see it in the imminent future, because I just think we've got to keep up with 40k, we've got to do Warhammer, and we've got to now do the Horus Heresy stuff as well. So actually that's more than enough. That's probably too much for where we currently are. But so I think adding anything else on in sort of epic scale in the foreseeable future, I doubt, I'm afraid. Sorry. Chap here.
Can we hope to see Dark Elves make an appearance in the Warhammer Forge, or are they just too difficult to think of anything for?
Dark Elves, I don't think anything's too difficult to think. Well, sometimes it's difficult to think of exciting things to do, but I don't think they should be too difficult. I think we have a responsibility to make them, find an interesting way of introducing anything that people would collect a Warhammer army for. So, I can very much see them. I can see everything appearing, but it's just going to take time to get around to each of them individually. So, yeah, I wouldn't hold your breath too much. We've got lots of other bits to do.